Good morning students, welcome to the third video lecture on apiculture. Today in this lecture we will be discussing on the different stages of development of honeybees. In its development, the honeybee passes through the 4 stages, that is the egg, larva and pupa, from which the adult emerges. So the 4 stages are the egg, larva, pupa and the adult. These are the 4 stages of development seen in honeybees, and this type of development is called as a complete metamorphosis. So there are the 4 stages in the development of an honeybee, that is the egg, larva, pupa and the adult, and this type of development is called as complete metamorphosis. And let's see one by one the different stages of honeybee. The first stage, it is the egg stage, and in appearance and the size, the eggs of the different castes are of alike, and they are however laid in the cells provided for the rearing the different caste. So these are the cells, these are the each cells we can see in the honeycomb, and the eggs are laid by the female in these cells. And when we pass on to the larvae of all castes look similar, but the queen and the drone larvae are the larger than the worker grubs during the half life of their development. And when we pass on to the pupa of the drone and the worker or the queen can be identified by examining the eyes. And in these cases, the drone, the eyes meet over the head, and in the worker they are far apart. So that's a distinguishing feature of the pupa of drone and the worker. Furthermore, in broodcomb, the worker pupa has a flat capping. Here you can see the capping, it's almost a flat when compared to that of the capping of that of the egg and the larva. And the pupa stage will have the capping with a null and the dry appearance, and the drawn pupa have a convex capping like this, a convex capping with a hole in the center in the case of the Apis indica bees. And the flat capping of the honey cells has a shining appearance. The to develop into a queen, it requires 16 days from the day of the egg is laid, and to develop into the worker, it requires about 21 days. So the queen is either 16 to 17 days, and the worker is about 21 days. It requires 21 days to develop, and for the drone it requires more time. It's about the 24 days. So this is the time or the number of days required by the each stages of bee development. The egg stage lasts for about the 3 days, the larva for about 5 days, the queen pupal stage lasts for about 9 days, and total it requires about 17 days to complete this developmental stages. Then the worker, the egg stage 3 days, and for drone also the 3 days. In larval stage of the worker requires 6 days and drone 7 days. The worker pupa lasts for about 12 days, and the drone pupa lasts for about 14 days, and the worker requires 21 days and the drone requires 24 days. So from this table it clearly indicates the number of days required by each stages of the caste for its development. This is a pictorial representation of the bee development. As you can see that as a queen lays egg, if it is fertilized, then from it the queen and the worker develops. And if it is unfertilized, drone develops from that. And if it is a fertilized egg, it will be the larva will be emerging from that, and it will be a heavy feeding larva, and it will be fed with the royal jelly. Then if it is a fertilized and if it is a light feeding, then of course it will be of a worker one. So it is a queen who is a heavy feeding one. Then if it is an unfertilized egg, it gives rise to the drone. So this is very important in a bee hive or in a bee development stages. If the egg is fertilized, it gives rise to the queen and a worker, and if it is unfertilized, of course the egg will be developing into a drone. So again, next we will discuss about the life of a worker bee, and it is said that all the works are done by the worker bee, and it starts its work from the day 1 itself. From the day 1 to day 2, it gets engaged in the cell cleaning, and the brood cells every time has to be cleaned and before the next use, and the cells will be inspected by the queen, and if it is unsatisfactory, it will not be laying the eggs into that cell, and the worker bees in the cleaning phase will perform this cleaning, and if not clean worker bee, if it is not cleaned well, it has to be done again. So there are the cell cleaning bees. That is the first important work of the worker bee. The next, in the day 3 to 11 days, the worker bee will be performing as a nurse bee. They feed the worker larvae, the worker jelly, secreted from the same glands that produce the royal jelly. So they are fed with the developing larvae are fed with this jelly, royal jelly. If it is destined to become a queen, the larva will be fed with the royal jelly or with the worker jelly by these worker bees. They are the advanced nurse bees. These bees are fed with the royal jelly. These larvae, these bees will be feeding bees feed the royal jelly to the queen larva, and the drones receives the worker jelly for about 1 to 3 days, at which time they are moved to honey and pollen. So after the few days, the feeding with royal jelly will be the feeding with the worker jelly will be stopped, and they will be starting feeding them with honey and pollen. Then in the day 12 to 17, the wax production will be started by these worker bees. They build the cells from the wax, prepare the old cells. They will store the nectar and the pollen brought by the other workers. The early in the worker carrier, she will extrude the wax from the space between the several abdominal segments, and the four sides of the wax glands inside the last four ventral segments of the abdomen produce a wax for the comb construction. So the wax with the help of the wax glands, the worker bee will produce a wax, and it is used for the comb construction. Then there are the other functions also for this worker bees. That is a honey sealing is done by these worker bees. The mature honey is sufficiently dried and it is sealed tightly with the wax to prevent absorption of the moisture from the air by the worker deputized to do the same. So that's again the another functions performed, or the another work performed by these worker bees. Then they are also help in feeding the drones, and those bees are called as a drone feeders. Drones do not feed themselves, they have to be fed by the worker bees. So these are the functions, some of the functions performed by these worker bees. They clean the cell, they nurse the bees, developing the larva. They feed the larva, developing larva. Then the wax production is also the another function of the worker bees. Again, the worker bees from day 12 to 17, they are the queen attendants. They groom and feed the queen, and they also collect the queen mandibular pheromone from the queen and share it with the bees found then, who also share it, spreading its effects to the hive. So there are the queen mandibular pheromones which is secreted by this queen, and these worker bees spread these pheromones among its fellow mates. Next, they are the honeycomb builders. The whole honeycomb, it is produced by the wax produced by this honeybee worker bees. They are the pollen packing is done by this worker bees. The pollen brought into the hive for the feeding, and the brood is also stored, and it must be packed firmly into the comb cells and mixed with a small amount of honey so that it doesn't spoil. And unlike the honey, which does not support the bacterial life, stored pollen will become rancid without the proper care and has to be kept in the honey cell. So the honey will be mixed with, or then the honey will be mixed with the pollen so as to enable its long life. Next, propolising bees. The walls of the hive will be covered with a thin coating of propolis. The propolis. What is propolis? The propolis are the resinous substance obtained from the plant in combination with the enzymes added by the worker. This will have the antibacterial and the antifungal properties. And propolis is also used to close off the extensive ventilation and entrances. Then there are the mortuary bees. The dead bees and the failed larvae has to be removed from the hive to prevent the diseases and allow the cells to be reused. So the mortuary bees, they will be removing the waste materials and also the dead bees and the dead larvae from the hive. They carry these dead bodies from the hive to a far distance. There are the fanning bee workers. They will cool and evaporate the water brought by the worker carriers, and they direct the airflow into the hive or out of the hive depending on the need. So again, these are the more functions performed by the worker bees. Still more functions has to be performed by these worker bees. They are the guard bees. They will protect the entrance of the hive from the enemies. There are the soldier bees. They will be guarding the entrance and will be attacking the invaders. The entrance guard bees are also there. The outside guard bees are also there. Entrance guard bees will be there at the entrance of the hive. Outside guard bees will be guarding the surrounding of the hive to a short distance. And the water carriers are there. They will carry or they will be preventing the overheating of the hive by bringing the certain amount of water from the short distances, and they will be fanning the hive by moving their wings. Then from the day 22 to 35, they are the foraging bees. They will start foraging, and the foragers of the snout bees travel to miles to bring the nectar and the pollen and to collect the propolis to the hive. And at last they die in the field. The lifespan of the worker bees depend on the time of the year. The most worker bees live about 28 to 35 days. However, the workers that are reared in September and October can live throughout the winter season. So after performing all these days, all these functions, all these days from the day 1 to the 35 days, the worker bee will be dying. And so these are the major work functions or the major work performed by the worker bees. So with this, we'll be ending this video lecture. Thank you.